Traditionally, the NTPA kicks things off with the Indy Super Bowl. But this year, the season opener shifts to a decidedly sunnier setting with the Gator NTPA Nationals. The four-wheel drives with their 500-plus cubic inch mountain motors will be the first to attack the sandy soil in Naples, Florida. In this sport, you don't take things too lightly. So don't expect the action to be any less super. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, and today we come to you from Florida Sports Park in Naples, Florida for the Gator NTPA Nationals. This event, the Gator NTPA Nationals, actually replaces the old Indy Super Bowl. Now, for a puller to get qualified, he must be a top 10 finisher in his class or a reigning regional or national champion. Now, of course, the roots of pulling are deeply seated in the rural Midwest of the country, so we're not sure how this event might play on the edge of the Everglades. It's a long tow to the south of Florida here in Naples, but I tell you what, these big dogs don't want to go away empty-handed. Here with more in today's competition is Army Armstrong.
Paul Holman in a four-wheel drive pulling category has literally struck fear in the competitors, as 4 of the last 6 years he's been the man to beat, winning the NTPA National Championship. But he's won that championship relying on brute Steve Schmidt horsepower. He doesn't need the horsepower today. The big talk around the block today is not a horsepower track. It's going to be a finesse track or a balance track. I'll show you what we mean. The truck weighs 6,200 pounds, about 2,000 pounds of horsepower. How do you get the balance to work for you? What you do not want to do is to get these four-wheel tires spinning so fast that they pick up sand and throw it in front of the buckboard of the sled. The truck weighs 6,200 pounds. The sled weighs 4,200 pounds. That's going to be tough enough to pull as it is. But if you start throwing sand in front of the buckboard or the sled, you have to pull that weight too. The one thing that all the drivers know, you got to figure out a four-corner offense with a four-wheel drive truck today. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble for sure.
In Naples, Florida, the drivers call this the sand pit. The track backs, the track width 40 feet, 300 feet in length, and the sled weighs 42,000 pounds, but this is a very sandy surface. And the first up is Larry Smith, and here's Army with track conditions.
Gary, the drivers walking behind me are all looking down at the track. What are they looking at? They're looking at nothing more than a sandy surface. Normally, this area that we're in right now is under about 3.5, 4 feet of mud. This is the same area where they had the swamp buggy races, but they drained the lake, got all the water out of here, but what was left was nothing more than old Florida sand. And again, I want you to look at my hand here because there's no moisture in the sand to make it pack. And these guys are worried to death. Nobody thinks they're going to be able to put the horsepower down on the track today. So that tells me one thing. It's going to be a thinking man's track. You're going to see guys that I believe before the day's over actually killing horsepower trying to get the sled on the other end. It could be the toughest 300 feet they got to pull on all year long. We're going to find out who can figure this thing out. Back to you, Gary.
I'll put the suntan lotion on as we introduce you to the sled cams. Some great shots from Florida Sports Park. And our first puller, the lean meat machine out of Holland, Michigan. This is Larry Smith.
Gary, we get a look at a unique camera angle. It's mounted right over the top of the weight transfer box where the weight actually moves forward on the sled. NTPA official throws a green flag out. Now, not like other forms of racing where you attack the track. Everybody's watching this turkey farmer to see if he can figure this thing out. We're going down the track at one rate. The weight goes forward at another rate. The truck's pulling at another rate, 300 feet. Let's see if he can figure it out, Gary.
1991 Chevy S10 with a big 620 cubic inch Chevy power plant. 300 feet. Let's see now.
Wow, look how it settles. Look at the tires, how they all pour. We talked about the four-corner offense. Those guys literally dug in, Gary.
284 and 10 for Larry Smith out of Holland, Michigan. 284.10. And once again, grave concern over this track and how this track will tear up.
Exactly. In the opening, I talked about finesse. It's hard to believe in a sport of brute horsepower. You actually do have to be a little finesse-minded. What you got to do here is not let the truck bounce. If it bounces, it digs in. If it digs in, it kills forward motion. And that's what all these guys are just scared to death of. They're going to dig in the end. like he did. Larry, the word we get to 284 and 10. What's it like out there? Everybody's watching you to see what's going to happen.
It's a sand track. It's really loose. There's hardly any traction out there, but I'm pretty happy. I thought that was a good run, the last run. We'll just have to wait and see if everybody else beats it or not.
More fun from the Naples Sandbox coming up on Trucks and Tractor Power. Welcome back to Trucks and Tractor Power at the Gator NTPA Nationals from the Florida Sports Park in Naples, Florida. It's all part of the Copenhagen Skull Pulling Circuit. Coming up next, the 94 Chevy Silverado, the heartbeat of America. Out of the state of Iowa, this is Gene HELMIG.
Gene capitalized on the Chevrolet logo name, the heartbeat of America. The big question is, where do you put the horsepower? We talked earlier about the dirt getting thrown up in front of the buckboards. If you notice, he almost has mud flaps here to direct the dirt away from the sled. It's hard to believe that you can pick up about 1,000 pounds of sand or dirt and throw it in front of the sled. Now, this guy out of Iowa knows he's going to have to finesse this thing through. You look at the big red scoops in the front of the engine. That's an interleaf fuel injection system, and I'll guarantee you those guys have been reading all types of little toots and whistles trying to figure out how not to make a whole lot of horsepower. As a matter of fact, I said earlier, and I still believe they're going to be trying to kill horsepower before the day's over, Gary. Boy, he's really up on the RPM. He's got some good ground speed.
He needs a 284-10.
Got a motor going away. He's killing that horsepower I was telling you about, but it's an awfully expensive way to do it. He is hurting that motor big time.
That was an expensive run. Look at that, though. The full pull, he takes it out of there. But now, keep in mind, if we have anybody... Oh, look at this.
That's not what you want to see.
If we have anybody else, Army, that takes it out of here,
I don't think
necessitating a pull-off, Gene's finished.
He can't come back at about the 150-foot mark. It started self-destructing on it. But we told you, as the horsepower went away, it actually helped him because it let him go on down the track, and he kept the horsepower up, he'd have been in trouble.
Well, once again, a full pull, but a very expensive full pull. Here's Army with Gene.
Well, you fellas knew you were going to have to put it on kill. About the 100-foot mark, we saw smoke coming out, but at that point in time, you don't have any choice. You still got to go for it, don't you?
That's right, Army. I could feel it going away, but we had the truck hooked up pretty good. We made a lot of changes for the sand track. Changed the tires, went a lot higher on the gear, and it worked pretty good, but we did lose the motor, so we're going to have to kind of scramble now.